We will discuss, of course, the horrific terrorist attacks, Muslim terrorist attacks in Paris. We're also going to look at what world leaders are talking about and refugees. How many of them should we bring into America? I'm Randall Terry. This is Voice of Resistance.
Those who forsake the law praise the wicked. Those who uphold the law resist them. Welcome to the Voice of Resistance. Here's your host, Randall Terry.
One of the concert goers was filming the concert in Paris when the guns started blazing. Here is a clip to show you the mayhem as it began. The result, of course, is that in multiple attacks around Paris, nearly 150 people are dead, multiple hundreds injured. Thank God that those Muslim terrorists did not make it inside of that soccer stadium. The death toll could have been unthinkable had they been successful, just from the people crushing one another as they ran. I'm going to tell you something, and it is simply to establish who I am, like the first day in school. In case any of you don't know this, this is not for bragging. This is just so that you can understand that I actually know something about this topic. I graduated with a master's degree from a military university named Norwich University. It's just a little bit younger than West Point, very old, very prestigious, and my master's degree is in diplomacy and international terrorism. And most of my study in international terrorism was on Islamic terrorism. So this is an area for me, not where I pick up a newspaper and read it and then make comments. This is an area for me where I have spent hundreds and hundreds of hours studying at a graduate level. So what I'm about to discuss with you is not simply an armchair quarterback or an armchair opinion, but the type of stuff that people study if they want to work for the State Department, okay? Except that in Obama's State Department, they vet you, and you have to swear the oath of allegiance. You have to drink the Kool-Aid that Islam is a religion of peace. And I'm not going to do that. So, but I am going to talk to you, and perhaps influence the next Republican president, should God save us from Hillary. All right. We have discussed on this program. Let me back up. You know by now the facts. I don't need to go over with you the facts of the actual terrorist attack. What I want to discuss with you is what world leaders are talking about right now as they meet in Turkey. You may have noticed that suddenly Vladimir Putin, the leader of Russia, has come in from the cold, and he's being warmed up to, cozied up with by Obama and by Cameron and by Merkel. Why? Because Putin has the guts and the military hardware to fight ISIS. Now, Obama and Cameron are saying that we're glad you want to fight ISIS, please fight ISIS, but Assad, the leader of Syria, has to go. Putin has not agreed to those terms. Now, I want to discuss this with you because we're Americans, we have been trained to think that democracy is the end-all. The greatest thing that could happen would be for a people to decide their own destiny with the vote. That is simply not true. Democracy is a construct. We helped get rid of the PLO. Do you remember them, the Palestine Liberation Organization? And who filled the vacuum? A terrorist organization named Hamas, who now, through the ballot box, controls Palestine, right? The Palestinian Authority is run by terrorists who got there by the vote. And then the U.S. was really in a pickle. They said, wait a minute, we believe in democracy. No, wait, these people elected terrorists. Freeze frame, what do? Look at Egypt. When Mubarak was taken out, the Muslim Brotherhood, which is a terrorist organization, even though the U.S. government hasn't deigned it to be so, other governments have said that it is a terrorist organization. The Muslim Brotherhood, a terrorist organization with decades of history of brutal murder, they had the infrastructure to win an election. And then the people of Egypt said, whoa, 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 these guys are trying to impose Sharia law on us. We don't want that. And the military stepped in and overthrew the government. But the moral of the story here is that an elected group of people were about to bring in the most brutal law code on the face of the planet by means of an election. When we come back from this break, I will explain to you what will happen if an election happens in Syria. Don't go away. Friend, we are in the middle of producing a 14-part epic television series called What Would Mohammed Do?, explaining Islam and ISIS to the West. I have a master's degree in international terrorism, and I have studied ancient Islamic texts for over a decade. And we are going to do a very paced and a very scholarly look at Muhammad's life and see the connection of his life to today's headlines. Well, we need your help on 3 levels. 1, we need help with some security measures. 2, we need help with some gear for the studio. And 3, we need help with some computers. I'm inviting you to go to the GoFundMe site that you see on the screen and watch the pilot for episode 1. You'll get a feel for what it's going to be, and I promise you, you're going to be excited. You'll be challenged, and you're going to want your friends to see it. And then after you've seen it, give what you can to help us with this project. Thank you. The Reliance of the Traveler. This is a book that is hundreds of years old, and in our generation was translated into English. It is an overview of Sharia law from the Shafi'i school. There are 4 main schools of Sharia law in Sunni Islam that 75% of what they agree or that they hold, they agree on. The major tenets of Sharia law, they are in complete agreement. 51% of Muslims in America who were polled said that they would prefer Sharia law over the U.S. Constitution. Almost 20% of those polled said that it would be ethical, that it would be appropriate to overthrow our government with the use of force and violence. These are Muslims in America. Now, the reason we're focusing on that is because there are people who think that if we'll just give them the vote, everything will be okay. It's not true. It wasn't okay in Egypt. It's not okay in the Palestinian territories. You've got an elected government there, friends, and they're launching rockets almost on a daily basis into Israel. Okay? Don't drink the Kool-Aid. Don't fall for the nonsense from Obama and his people. They don't understand the hundreds of years of culture and momentum and Sharia law that accompanies Islam. Now, if Syria was to have an election, here's what's going to happen. Number 1, the Shiites, the Ba'athist Party, but they're Shiites, they're going to be thrown out of power. Syria has about 70%, these are rough numbers, but they're pretty accurate, it's about 70% Sunni Muslims. Only maybe 12% Shiite Muslims, and up until this insanity, about 10% Christian. Okay? There was a significant minority. In Egypt, about 8% of the population are Christians. There was a higher percentage of Christians in Syria with less oppression and less killing of the Christians in Syria per capita than in Egypt. And oh, look, Syria didn't have free and open elections. Our Christian brothers and sisters in Egypt are being tormented and were being tormented by elected governments. Our Christian brothers and sisters in Pakistan, they have free elections there. Christians are being brutally oppressed in Pakistan regularly in a country with free and open elections. So having free and open elections does not mean that there's going to be justice. Once the Sunnis are in control of Syria, the Sunni narrative, the Sunni storyline that is being followed by ISIS, okay, Islamic State, is that there must be one caliph and that there must be one nation, one Islamic nation. Now, quick review. Do you know the difference? Do you remember the difference between a Shiite Muslim and a Sunni Muslim? A Shiite Muslim is somebody who believes that only a blood relative of Muhammad could be the successor. So the Shiites argue that the first three successors of Muhammad, Abu Bakr, Umar, and Uthman, the Shiites say they were not legitimate. They weren't blood relatives, but Ali, his cousin and his son-in-law through Fatima, Muhammad's daughter, that dynastic line, that dynasty is where the true leader of Islam should be. And the Shiites condemn the Sunnis as heretics because they had these first three. And the Sunnis condemn the Shiites as heretics because they reject these first three caliphs, Abu Bakr, Umar, and Uthman. Now remember, Khalifa is the Arabic word for successor. So the Sunni narrative wants to reestablish the Khalifa, the caliphate, the office of the one leader and one nation. The Ottoman Empire, when it was defeated at the end of World War I, was dismembered. That was the end of the one nation, and it was the end of the caliphate. The Sunni narrative wants to restore it. If the Sunnis take over Syria, they have an ideology and they have a history and they have a culture that is sympathetic to ISIS. Even though many of them don't want to brutalize their fellow Muslims, they do want a caliph and they do want one nation because that's what Muhammad said it had to be. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas referred to John Locke twice in his dissent in the Obergefell decision. John Locke is referred to as the philosopher of American liberty. He was a genius, and he not only believed in natural law, but he believed in revealed law, the Word of God, the law of God. And he is one of the two most influential philosophers on the founders of this republic. We are offering you this book, and I'm going to give you my book as well, The Sword. The Sword, the subtitle is The Blessing of Righteous Government and the Overthrow of Tyrants. It looks at what is the legitimate purpose of government and when is it our right to overthrow government like they did with the Declaration of Independence. We will send you these two books if you simply pay for the shipping and handling, $8, and then give whatever else you want. And by the way, the $8 doesn't cover our cost, but if that's all you can afford, we'll send them to you for the $8. God bless you. So, our government is saying we want Assad out and we want free elections in. When Assad goes, you're going to see a quicker transition towards the Islamic State and its sympathizers controlling Syria. That is what is going to happen. There will be more brutality of Christians, Shiites, Druze, and other minorities. That's what's going to happen. Randall, how can you be so sure? Look at Libya. Okay? The morning that the attacks took place in Paris, our president had done an interview with George Stephanopoulos of ABC. And our president foolishly, once again, looking like he doesn't know what he's talking about, which is true, at least on many of these things, he said that ISIS had been contained. He tried to make it seem, once again, like ISIS is no big deal. And in fact, let's play that footage just real quick.
But you don't see this systematic march by ISIL. From the start, our goal has been first to contain, and we have contained. And in Syria, they'll come in, they'll leave.
So there you go. You see that I'm not making this up, okay? President says ISIS is contained. And then that very night, we saw just how little ISIS had been contained. And then the next morning, please stay with me, America is dropping bombs where? Libya. We're trying to kill the Libyan leader of ISIS. Now, Libya was supposed to be our great, look at what we've done. We've brought democracy. We helped topple this dictator, Muammar Gaddafi. And what we did was we helped establish terrorist training zones, entire swaths of property controlled by Islamic State and Muslim terrorists. Now they're using it as a training ground. Those poor Egyptian Christians, God rest their soul, they were killed on the shores of Libya by Muslim terrorists. If Gaddafi had still been in power, that wouldn't have been happening. Gaddafi, like Assad, allowed a certain level of dignity, very small. Dignity is the wrong word. He wasn't murdering Christians just because they were Christians, okay? That's the bottom line. And when Gaddafi fell, it ensured that Muslim terrorists would have a haven. And oh, look at what they did, Madam Secretary. They killed our ambassador at Benghazi. If Gaddafi had been in power, that would not have happened. So we have to understand that what we're calling for in Syria, the removal of Assad and the establishment of democratic elections, is exactly what we did in Libya, and we can expect more of the same results, except that the ISIS monsters, the devout Muslims, I should say, the followers of Muhammad that are in Islamic State, they are more numerous and have more of an infrastructure in Syria and in Iraq. And if an election does happen, you can expect huge brutality. Okay? The Taliban in Afghanistan got control of the government. Think about it. Look what they did. They became a safe haven for Al-Qaeda. A Syrian government that is Sunni and that is sympathetic to Sharia law and a caliphate is going to be sympathetic with ISIS. They will cut some kind of a deal. Trust me. Trust me. They will cut some kind of a deal, breathing space, for ISIS to continue its rampage. So I hope that Putin holds his line and says, no, I won't agree. I'll kill ISIS with you. But for the time being, having Assad in power as a Shiite to help suppress the Sunni majority there that is in alignment ideologically and historically with ISIS, that's the best thing that can happen for the region. And do we really think that Iran, who we've now helped get a nuclear weapon, Iran that is almost totally Shiite and uses Syria as its puppet, do we really think that Iran is going to allow a Shiite government in Syria to be taken down? The ones who are doing the best job on the ground killing ISIS are soldiers, Shiite soldiers from Iran. It's Shiites that are killing the Sunnis because they have a religious motivation to do so. And this is why we have to suspend our narrative. Democracy, think of George Washington and John Adams. We have to suspend our narrative and look at their narrative. Muhammad, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali. No, wait, no, it should be Muhammad. I don't even know these names. I'm lost. Let's just have them vote. Wrong. Friend, this TV show represents a mission. It's to be a voice of resistance to the evil in the land, but also to inspire people like you to take a stand at any level that you might be able to equip you, to inspire you, to challenge you, to give you the rhetorical ammunition that you need. But we still have to pay bills. This program, as you know if you're a regular viewer, we don't spend a lot of time raising money. We don't spend a lot of time saying, oh, you need to buy this and we're going to... No, we're bringing you a message, but we still have bills that we need to pay. I'm asking you, if you have been blessed by this show, to please go to our website or send a check to the address you see on the screen or call the phone number that you see on the screen and use your credit card and to give $50 or $100 or $500 just to help us meet our normal expenses. And we'll keep bringing you this hard-hitting show. Are we living off of our grandparents' guilt? I want to talk to you about that in these closing moments. There are people who are still pushing for us to bring Syrian refugees into this country. Now, I have said repeatedly on this show and in writing, these are not refugees, they are insurgents. If they are devout Muslims, they bring with them a completely separate law code and a completely separate set of loyalties. But more importantly, as the Parisian attacks have proved, because some of these men were let into Europe under the guise of being refugees, okay? The ones in the attack and those that provided material support for them and tactical support. If we let in refugees, a certain percentage of them will in fact be trained members of ISIS. And all you have to do is look at the pictures, okay? Look at the pictures of who is coming. It's well-dressed, healthy Muslim males, okay? One of the guys involved in the attack was actually on a boat that was rescued by Greek authorities. That's what, all right? He almost went down with the ship. They saved him, and he then went on to give his thanks to Europe by killing infidels. So people who think, oh, if we just let them come here and they'll have a taste of freedom, they'll have a taste of democracy, and they'll have a taste of economic prosperity, they're going to be okay. You're fooling yourself. People who tell you this are insane. They don't know history, and they certainly don't understand the narrative of Islam. So we have to not live off of our grandparents' guilt. In other words, we look at, well, yeah, we really did oppress black people with slavery, and we really did oppress black people with the Jim Crow laws. And we really were cruel to the Japanese with the internment camps in World War II. And we really did mess up with the McCarthy hearings with the communists in the 1950s, the un-American, whatever they were called, the un-American hearings. Stop living off our grandparents' guilt. We have a knife to our throats. We have a scimitar to our throats from Islam. They know what they're doing, and they believe it. Okay? Now, in tomorrow's program, how much time do we have? In tomorrow's program, I'm going to look at you with 4 things that we can do. What we can do personally about Islam, personally. What we can do with PR, public relations, we the people. What we can do through our government with domestic policy, and what we can do with our government through foreign policy. Those are the 4 ways. If we have any hope or prayer of being safe against Islamic terrorism, I'll tell you, I'll give you the hint for the first one. You ready? We have to understand Islam. We have to study it. We have to understand it. We have to know Muhammad. We have to learn some of the names. We have to learn some of the critical battles, like the Battle of Badr, the Battle of the Trench, or Battle of Uhud. Because these things, oh, I don't want to learn that stuff. Well, then you don't want to understand how to protect yourself. Okay? It's really simple. You have to be able to say, Muhammad was a bad guy. He wasn't a good guy. In the narrative, he was a villain. Most people do not know that Muhammad killed a man with his own hand, that he personally ordered and oversaw the beheadings of hundreds and hundreds, literally over 1,000 people, okay? But if you don't know that, how can you say to a Muslim, do you know what the founder of your religion did? Do you know that he institutionalized rape of Muslim captive women? Is that what you want? So we have to know Islam, all right? That is going to be a part of our duty, what keeps us safe. And then the second one is what we can do collectively as a body. In the meantime, contact your senators and your representative from the U.S. House and say, under no circumstances should we let any Syrian refugees in, and we need to send the ones that are here out. And oh, by the way, why won't Saudi Arabia take them? Have the same language, have the same religion, look alike, have the same culture. Saudi Arabia doesn't want them because Saudi Arabia knows that there's terrorists among them.